Yeah. I pushed it.
All right. The button has been
Apparently we're live.
At some point, we will be live.
See.
So just let me know when we're officially live. So
well, it stopped swirling. I think we're... Hello, everyone. How are we doing?
All right. Well, it does sound a bit like we're live right now. So glad to have everybody on this week's episode of TMRO with us. You're probably looking at the screen right now, wondering what is going on. Well, none of us. Yes, we are live, Zach. That is true. And hello, everybody in the chat room who's jumping in right now. And hello to all of you who may be watching on demand as well. If you are, don't forget to open up the chat replay so you can see what's going on there. Glad to have you with us. As you can see, the only person who's actually at Station 204 this week is Dutta. So I guess we'll start. Yes, there's our usual area that you would find myself.
Oh, sorry, wrong camera.
Side in JD Port with, and then we've got Dutta hanging out right there in the control room, and then we've got Dali. Dali, where are you currently?
I am in a basement on the top of a hill in a Victorian house near LA.
Okay, so it sounds like a very nice place to be. Ryan, where are you at right now?
Where I always am.
Okay,
apart from 1 week in January and 2 weeks in December, I'm where I always am.
Fair enough. So glad to have. Well, wherever you are, Ryan, we're glad to have you there. And me, Jared, your host, your remote host for today. I am not at 204 as I would usually be. I'm up in San Francisco enjoying, getting ready to enjoy some time up here. And I do want to go ahead and get things started because we got a lot to talk about in spaceflight this week. Ryan, you are sort of our all-time starter, if you will, for TMRO. So why don't we go ahead and get started with what you've got to talk about for our TMRO episode this week?
Spacewalks, they're fun, aren't they?
They are.
Well, yeah. Apparently they're fun to the crew on the ISS as well, because they've been doing a lot of them. 4 different people have been outside of the ISS this week, doing exactly that, floating around, fixing some bits, and interestingly, so one was from the Crew 6 mission. There was, what's his name? Steve Bowen and Sultan Al-Niyadi. So this was actually the first spacewalk from an astronaut from the United Arab Emirates, which I thought was very interesting, very cool. Inclusivity and all of that jazz, more people accessing space, and Steve Bowen as well from NASA. They were doing some power upgrades, getting ready for the IROSAs, the Rollout solar arrays, which are kind of replacing the big ones that we're all used to. I showed my models up there, the big ones. You can't see it. When you watch Space News, you know what I'm talking about. The big ones. So that was really, yeah. They're rolling them out gradually. I think they're also putting one on, also the next Dragon resupply as well. Yeah. But most interestingly, there was a Russian spacewalk as well with Sergei Prokopyev and Dmitry Petelin. Hopefully I got their names right. And that was to install a science experiment airlock onto the Nyoka module, which docked and then flipped in 2021, I think. And the reason I'm interested about this is because it was actually launched on Space Shuttle Atlantis STS-132 back in 2010. And it's only now just been put into its final place because of the delays that happened to the Nyoka science module. So that's my favorite part of the week, the Russian airlock that's being installed over a decade late because of delays with its host module. Yeah. Just ticked all the boxes now. Yes, the ISS is now officially complete, apart from everything that's going to happen between now and the point where it's deorbited.
Honestly, it sounds like with things still occurring on the International Space Station that the ISS is not sort of something like we're set in our plans that we're doing it. It's almost like Walt Disney with Disneyland. It will never be completed. We're constantly going to be adding stuff. So International Space Station, next Disney theme park, perhaps? Guess we'll have to find out. I don't.
Tickets will be more expensive, and I don't think you'll get a what do you call it? The thing, the pass thing they ended.
Oh, the
Fast Pass.
Or
Fast pass.
Lightning,
Yeah.
whatever 50
Yeah.
option that doesn't work well that they're calling it nowadays. Gotcha. So sounds good with that there. I was also going to say, if the Axiom 1 crew is anything to go by, it doesn't look like it's going to be much fun up there. Seems like it's going to be a bunch of work with that there. And of course, Zach Faber in our chat room making a very good point here, which is better late than never. And then Jason was asking, so the ISS is finally complete. I think in a sense of like modules and other things, it actually isn't. And Alison Cornish right here, just literally what I was just about to say, which is that Axiom, a company here in the United States, still has to launch their modules to the International Space Station. So no, even with modules and other things like that, the International Space Station is not done being assembled. There's still a lot more to come with it. And then also I wanted to kind of highlight those rollout solar arrays, because I think that they're a really cool technology that's being used at the International Space Station. And if you've ever seen them, they really are rollout solar arrays. Like, they actually do roll out, and then they have them put up in front of where, as Dali is
perfectly demonstrating there.
With a great demonstration there. Thank you, Dali. But those rollout solar arrays, I don't know if we got the picture of it or not to you, Detta. If not, it's okay. But they actually roll them out over the main solar arrays of the International Space Station. A lot of those solar arrays have been on orbit for almost 2 decades now, so they're very, very they're not as efficient as they were when they first flew. So as you can see right here, is that the full rendering? I think I've got a very tiny screen, unfortunately, today. San Francisco not noted for its big stuff here, but yes. 6 of those rollout solar arrays, and not only is it 6 of them, but they're very, very small, right, compared to those massive.
Yeah.
You know, every time the Super Bowl happens here in the United States, NASA always trots out that big diagram showing that the size of an American football field with its solar arrays. But those are significantly smaller, and that's because over the 2 decades since the main solar arrays have been installed, we've gotten a bit better at photovoltaics, solar panels. And what was so interesting to me about these rollout solar arrays is that the first one that was tested in space was actually tested on the International Space Station. It was carried up by a OG Dragon crew, cargo, not crew, oh my God, Dragon version 1 cargo. This is how long it's been since that happened. But they basically rolled it out, they tested it, and then they just ejected it from the International Space Station. And then they used 2 sets of these rollout solar arrays to power the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, DART, as well. So here's the original rollout solar array back in the mid-2010s when they were testing it. So this is still a relatively new technology that we're working with, and they're only needing 6 of them, and they're not very big, and they're providing just as much power as those 8 massive solar arrays from just about 20 years ago with that there. So what a really great upgrade for the International Space Station. All of the modules on board and the Russian orbital segment and the United States orbital segment all get to use that power that comes in, and that's just fantastic. The old solar arrays, they are going to stay there. They're going to keep them there. And they are just going to continue to use them. Yeah, the rollout solar arrays are in the way, but they're not in the way of all of it, right? So there's still some juice that can be in, from that. And also, I would imagine, because of how big those solar arrays are, there might be a little bit of use in terms of the systems that are used to stabilize the space station, but I also could be wrong about that too. And if I am wrong, someone in the comments absolutely let us know. So, which is good. So we always love corrections in order with things like that. So very cool.
I imagine eliminating those would change the rotational mass or rotational inertia of the station, so they would have to completely recharacterize how to keep it in line with their orientation goals.
Yeah, that's very, very true. And Bennett Elder has a really good one here, actually. Bennett, I like that one, which those are Ludicrous brand solar arrays. And my mind at first was like, I think you misspelled ludicrous there, as in the speech. But then I was like, wait a second, ludicrous, move, get out the way. I'm not going to say the actual lyrics, like, but we all know what it is, right? So there you go. Bennett, fantastic call on that one there. And then Jason is actually asking a really interesting question that I've wondered about, which is if they were to add 2 more of the iROSA arrays, would the power system fail?
Well, they're launching more, so I'd hope not.
Okay, well, that answers that. And then, oh yeah, Bennett's also, Bennett is just the master of correction tonight with that, which is reminding me also of another Ludacris song, Rollout. So, gosh, Bennett, you are hitting all of the quintessential hip hop of the early aughts that we have with that there. So, very, very good. Also, Stephen Thompson brings up a really good point here, which I think would be good if it was just the iROSA arrays by themselves, but they're keeping the large original arrays up there anyhow, which is that shouldn't smaller panels mean less drag? And for those of you wondering, what are we talking about? Even up at the altitude that the International Space Station is at, anywhere from about 410 to 420 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, there's actually still some free atmospheric oxygen up there, and it does interact with it. It does generate just a little bit of drag, so that every couple of weeks they do have to actually do a reboost of the orbit of the space station and burn some of those engines on the Russian orbital segment for a couple minutes in order to push the station up to keep it in orbit. But what do you guys think about that? It should do less drag if it was just the iROSAs, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think the mostly it's like the frontal area along the orbital path, and because they're constantly tracking the sun, they hit. They're going to hit all the angles, right? And if you could, because they're not aerodynamic, and I don't think at those speeds aerodynamics kind of matter much. I think it's more just like if it interacts or not. That any of those are, I should be just looking at the shadow it makes, in that sense, and the drag should be proportional to that shadow.
Yes, and actually, I wonder, do they put the space station in like a configuration when it's orbiting around the night side of the Earth that the panels are in a low drag configuration there? Now I'm wondering about that. Like,
Ooh.
I wonder.
I don't know. All I know is that when I play Kerbal, all the solar panels constantly track the sun all the time. So that's my only data point on solar panel trackingness, apart from the ISS tracks the sun in the daytime, or on the daylight side of the Earth.
I gotta wonder if the wear and tear on the joints to change their configuration back and forth every 45 minutes would be worth the difference in cost. Maybe that would be a reason to not bother. I don't know.
Yeah, wear and tear on those systems that are moving the solar panels back and forth with that there. So, Dutta, I did just send you something, and I'm kind of checking in with you to see how you're doing on getting it up, because I did want to talk about something. So yeah, there you are orbiting around the Earth. Isn't it so pretty? And I would say, look at the solar panels there.
They're not moving. They're kind of angled perpendicular to the and there you go. As it approaches the sunrise, they're wiggling a bit. Wiggles. They were perpendicular to the direction of movement, but they're just wiggling them.
That looks like the wing on the plane I was on today.
Oh, there you go. You can see it tilted now towards the sun, which is rising over on the left. So I guess that's kind of them getting it in preparation. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that. So, and then Dutta, I had another one that I wanted to show you here, because Dolly, you talked about, would atmospheric drag even matter at that altitude? And I would like to say, yes, it would, because there's a mission that the European Space Agency did And bear with me here. I have to actually pull up the name because it's called GOCE, GOCE, but it's a mouthful because that stands for Gravity Field and Steady State Ocean Circulation Explorer.
It just rolls off the tongue. I mean, how is that not obvious from that acronym?
Yeah, just, just piece of cake, right? And basically, this measured the Earth's gravitational field. So geodesic works, kind of seeing how that was. But it orbited at an ultra low altitude, so low that they actually had a ion engine on the back of it that would equal the amount of atmospheric drag that it would be experiencing at that low orbital altitude. And you can see on this model of it here that they actually even do have sort of like these vertical, I guess tail points is what I would describe them as. Like almost like these stabilizers that allow it to basically be a little extra stable as it goes in orbit around the Earth.
It's just a super.
And you may be wondering,
it's a super low ISP rocket. It's
yes,
it
and it orbited at roughly about 250 kilometers above the surface of the Earth, and it was designed to stay in that orbit for a very long period of time, which it did. So it spent about 4.5 years at that orbital altitude before it eventually ran out of propellant, ended its mission, and decayed into the Earth's atmosphere very quickly, as you would imagine. One of my favorite things about that mission is that it was orbiting so low. It was in the real tenuous uppermost atmosphere of the Earth, but it was still orbiting so low that when the 8.9 2011 earthquake happened off the coast of Japan, it actually detected the seismic waves from it through the atmosphere. So, which is just like absolutely mind-blowing to think about that. But that was the level of detail that this was able to do with its mapping the Earth's gravitational field. But yes, you actually can design a vehicle to literally, I guess, work aerodynamically in the upper atmosphere of the Earth. So just in case you wanted to know, you could do it. So kids, for your next science fair in 4th grade, if you need an idea, there you go.
Mathematically, I totally get the effect goes all the way out. Okay, yeah, I get that, and I'm just like, but sensibly, like detectably, like above the noise floor, an earthquake makes a ripple in the ocean of air above us, enough that at the top of it, a little spacecraft can hear or taste it or something. What the heck?
Isn't that wild? So that and the fact that we have instruments that can do that blow my mind. With that. Like, just we can do that. So that's amazing. Bennett, I like that very much. Which is, look, it's Cyber Starship. So yeah, it's kind of one way to do it. So one way to look at it with it there. But T-Man Army channel did have a really cool question, which I was just going to answer really quickly and just get a confirmation from you, Ryan, since you know quite a bit about the International Space Station. You too, Dutta. You too, Dolly. How about everybody who's on the show right now? I was always curious, what side did they use to boost the station with it? Is it the Russian side or is it the U.S. side? And as far as I know, it is the Russian side, the Russian orbital segment that does all the reboosting.
Depends on whose spacecraft is boosting. When the shuttle,
when
the shuttle was connected.
Progress.
When the shuttle was connected, was that connected to the Russian side or U.S. side?
I believe did shuttle also do boost? Shuttle did do reboosting too, right?
Yeah.
So it was
also Cygnus.
Very good. So this is why I ask you guys these things, because you guys are able to bring these really awesome answers to it. So, so both segments depends on what vehicle you're using, though, right?
Yep.
It's mainly the Russian orbital segment. The majority of firings happen from there. It's the whatever one the service module is, the Rusvet module, I think, maybe, and then also Progress. Resupply craft as well with their engine in their service module as well.
At least in the last 10 years.
You got to be right on the middle. If you're not in the middle and point the right way, no.
You don't have to be in the middle. You just have to point at the center of gravity.
Yes.
Yes. You.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking that you want to put all the forces down the center of the thing, but I'm guessing that in this case is In this case, the force is slight enough that off axis is not a problem. So, yes, Dutta.
Yeah, and I like this this comment from the chat room from Standard. Very nice. Dutta is always right, mostly. So
Only mostly.
very nice. Robert is asking, how fast would you have to go to be hypersonic in the upper atmosphere? Because I know it's based on airspeed. Yes, I believe hypersonic is Mach 5.
Yeah, hypersonic is Mach 5 and above. So if you can figure out the speed of sound in the upper atmosphere, multiply that by 5, that's hypersonic.
Yeah. Jason is also saying earthquakes are fun. Sure. I think there's 3 of us in this 4-person team at the moment who may feel a bit differently about that.
As a native Southern California, I would much prefer earthquakes to tornadoes and hurricanes.
Yes. Yeah. One bad thing every 30 years as opposed to multiple bad things every year. I'll take it.
Agreed.
So, and then Bennett brings up a really good point, which is that we have talked about reboosting the International Space Station before, right after the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which is still ongoing, right after the start of that in February of 2022. And I believe we also determined, I think Cygnus has been used too,
Yes.
right? Northrop Grumman
Yes.
Space Innovation Systems, Cygnus.
Division of Orbital ATK, Orbital Sciences.
Yeah. And Seki, I don't. Oh my gosh! Oh, here comes the chat room again. So, saying a pattern of chaos. Texas has rock tornadoes. And Jason coming right on with this here. Texas has concrete showers. So,
There's only dust in Port Isabel. It's fine. According to Elon, said it's not toxic, so we're fine. We're fine.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Breathing concrete is perfectly safe. So
yeah,
I've done it for years. So and the Surgeon General says it's fine. So nobody's paying me to say that at all. Seki here, just we're on a little bit of an earthquake tangent, but Seki's saying, Jared, earthquakes could last for years as aftershocks. Trust me, myself, Dutta, and Dolly are very well aware of this. With it, but usually the aftershocks aren't bad. Stephen Thompson, very good. I like this one from Stephen Thompson, which is that there's a 30% chance of rebar. With that there, so very, very nice. So that's sort of what's been happening up on the International Space Station. So Ryan, thank you so much for catching this up. And also, I think really cool too to mention the fact that Sultan Inyadi becoming the first person from the United Arab Emirates to do a spacewalk. So
yeah,
very, very exciting to have that door opening up to many more countries and many more cultures all around the world.
Especially with the newer commercial suits that will be coming online shortly. Axioms is obviously intended to be used on the moon, but I think Collins is also working on a EVA suit for potentially the ISS, more focused kind of on Gateway. And quickly, old Gamer Noob has a good question, which is, does the science airlock just get experiments out, or is it big enough for other stuff? Well, I did drop a photo in. It's roughly the height of a person if they're actually standing up. It's quite hard to see because on EVA, astronauts are kind of crouched in a little bit because obviously they don't have to stand on anything. They're not experiencing the effect of gravity. There you go. You can kind of see the size of the airlock, which is that's the thing sticking out at the top compared to the two cosmonauts, Sergei Prokopyev and Dmitry Petelin. So, yeah, it's kind of science experiments only, giving them access to the vacuum of space without having to send somebody outside to drill it to the side of the station. A bit of time saving there as well.
Yeah. So, overall, just a really, really interesting week on the International Space Station. So, it's as Jason is saying right there, ISS traffic is now nuts. It's just, wow.
They need more docking ports. If they had more docking ports that the Canadarm could reach, then all of our problems would be solved. But for more docking ports, we need more modules, and Axiom is going to give us another docking port, I think, but we're still waiting for that.
let me throw this out there, because this is sort of something that I want to quiz all of us on, and then the chat room, you too, and then also for you watching, if you want to comment at home as well. If this was 5 years ago, back in 2018, so we're just a few months after Falcon Heavy's finally flown for the first time, and that InSight's on its way to Mars and other things like that. Would you have thought that we would be having this kind of a traffic problem at the International Space Station? Like, we're having to delay a mission because of traffic issues? Like,
there's only Soyuz and Progress and Cygnus going to the ISS in 2018. We didn't have Dragon. We didn't have Cargo Dragon. Well, we did have Cargo Dragon resupplies, but not in the sense of Dragon 2. We didn't have Starliner about to come online. We didn't have private missions to the ISS with Axiom. That didn't exist. We didn't know that Axiom were going to be doing private missions in the sense that they are until 2020, 2021 maybe. So, yeah, the not necessarily the vehicles going, but the amount of different missions going is just something that wasn't happening. The only way to get people to the station was on Soyuz, which was every 6 months. You know, so now we have Dragon, who are sending crew missions every 6 months for NASA, who also want to do Axiom missions, or are doing Axiom missions. It's just the access that Dragon is giving to the station is much higher than Soyuz can and could have done by itself, due to its lack of reusability and 6 month production schedule.
How about you, Dolly?
Over the last 10 years, I have gotten very consistent feedback that I am wildly over-optimistic in my projections of how space is going to happen. And therefore, I've been about right in general. So, yeah, I was predicting, hoping for this problem. This is a really nice problem to have. Thank you. I'm grateful for that.
Excellent. And Dutta?
Yeah, I didn't see this coming.
Yeah.
Everybody, as soon as shuttle was done, everybody's like, well, okay, ISS is done. Especially with Russia wanting to pull out.
Yeah, that really was a general idea. And, we're going to wrap up our time at the ISS by 2018, right? That was sort of the plan around that. So, and then, actually, we'll make it 2024. And now it's, actually, we'll do 2028. And now, actually, we'll make it indefinite.
There was a structural limitation. I thought at some point they had put a time limit on ISS of, I thought it was 2024 for some of the main structural elements, and they went back and redid analysis to be able to extend them for several more years.
Yeah, as long as you don't exceed the warranty too badly, then you should. Big issues, right?
Who do you think you are, JPL?
Of Theseus. I want the ISS to never ever come down. I want it to be a permanent museum in the long run, and because we just replaced all the parts, it's modular. I mean, I don't. If you want to deorbit some of them, stick them in a museum, fine. It's all good. I don't care if any of the original parts are there. I want continuity, just because.
Interesting. All right, Ryan. I guess this is going to lead down to another question for me. Ryan, what do you want to see with the International Space Station?
There's the optimistic answer and then the realistic answer. The optimistic answer is that each module is put into the payload bay of Starship and brought back down to Earth safely, happily, and put in the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. The realistic answer is they're just going to deorbit it and let it burn up over Point Nemo, because there is no financial gain in saving it. Yes, it's a big piece of history.
Sold to Jared Isaacman for $1, and make with a contract that he is intending to recover at least parts of it for what you're talking about, and let it become off the taxpayer's dime and handed to.
And you can't point it back at Earth
by a philanthropist.
No pointing the ISS back at Earth in case you see anything you're not meant to see.
Very nice. I like that one.
Job's done.
Job that one. What about you, Dutta? What would you do with the ISS?
Keep making it grow bigger. Just increase space, increase the occupiable space. Make more nodes, make more length, make more width, make more solar panels. That kind of infrastructure took how many years to get up there? And if you need to replace a module or a structural member now and then, so be it. But you can pretty easily do that. It's really modular, but grow it bigger. Make more access available.
Yeah, and
Bennett has a point here, asking or saying deorbiting isn't free. Well, it is because of drag. So uncontrolled deorbiting is free. Controlled deorbiting isn't in propellant, but it's going to come down eventually if it runs out of fuel. So it is kind of free.
Yeah, I'm with Dutta in that I want to see it continue and get bigger, and I feel like the Commercial Crew Program is a really great blueprint for a lot of these things, and I would love to see some sort of public-private partnership between NASA and someone else, like maybe Axiom or another company to maybe come in and take it over. I'm not looking for MirCorp from 2000, where it's entirely privately funded. So still, obviously, there's a lot that you could still use the International Space Station for, in terms of what NASA and other space agencies would like to do. But I think there's definitely a place for the private groups. You know, you've got Blue Origin wanting to do orbital reef, amongst other things. So, I mean, there has to be some sort of market that people would love to enable. It's just you need to have the place to enable it. So, so I guess my thing about the ISS is I want it to get bigger, because if you build it, they will come. So very clearly.
I like what Robert says. Keep building it until it's a ring around the Earth.
That would be pretty good. I also like T-Man Army Channel's idea, which is that just Deep Space Nine. So it worked out pretty well.
I see the original ISS hanging by wires in the entrance lobby.
Oh, ooh, Smithsonian. I think you need to call somebody.
No, but that's the entrance lobby of the space station that is the International Space Station of Theseus.
Ooh.
It's large enough that the original station is an exhibit in the lobby.
Okay, that's going to be a very big station.
Poor astronomers.
So, what's up?
Poor astronomers.
What do you mean poor astronomers?
No, that's their way station to their job. Their astronomers are out in cislunar space.
Yeah, come on. You should just put space telescopes in space. It's cheap. Everyone can do it and afford it.
By that time, there's 9 billion Starlinks in the atmosphere. There's no way they're going to see anything from the ground.
Right. And besides, I'm writing fiction. All I have to do is add a few decades. I can have anything I want, as long as it's past my lifetime.
Yes, that's always good in speculation. Is think beyond what you'll actually see. That way, if it actually happens, no one will blame you. Here's Bennett Elder from our chat room. Hey, that's the Edmund Halley rule, right? So Bennett Elder saying, "Hey Congress, what's cheaper, deorbiting the ISS or kicking the can down the road with reboosts every 6 years?" And Paul saying hi to everybody. Hello, Paul. With that there, I think somebody might have missed hitting that, but hey, we're glad that all of y'all are watching tonight, and hopefully y'all are enjoying what we've got here as well. So, wow, just that was a pretty good discussion on the International Space Station, just from a couple of things that happened with it. So, pretty interesting thoughts from all of you tonight.
No, the space station's dead, man.
Oh, it's totally gone, bro. So it's not even here anymore. Like, that's not it going over. That's just the hopes and dreams of everyone who's working on it. All right, so moving on a little bit. Dali, have you got some interesting stuff to talk about with us? Because you did a very cool space news.
Oh, thank you. And that's kind of what I want to poke at you about. You're my astronomer nerd friend, the most. And I want to ask you about whether you would want New Horizons,
yes,
the probe out there, to become a new observatory just observing the sun from the Kuiper Belt. How important is that to astronomy? Is that something that matters to you, to your interests and goals in this?
So So if you could kind of explain a little bit more why you're asking this to folks who may not
Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to think about this while I explain that the New Horizons probe that went past Pluto in 2015, and then another thing that apparently should not be named, anyway, a little barbell thing, very pretty, later is now probably not going to manage another close flyby of any objects, but is still the best camera that we could stick on a thing in 2005, and is way out there. There's currently a bit of a push and a tug over funding to have access to the deep space network required to get the data. That's not cheap. The ground people, all the things that make using that thing in place the most effective. So I'm looking for the cost-benefit ratio question of how interesting would the data from that beautiful camera be looking just back at our own star from the Kuiper Belt?
Well, Dali, if we're gonna be using the optical camera specifically, LORI, the long range imaging camera that they have on New Horizons, there is no active shutter on LORI, so it will fry the CCD as soon as you point it. So that's not good with it there. There's been talk about wanting to take a new family portrait. So for those of you who don't know, back in the early 90s, Voyager 1 was turned back and took what we now call the family portrait, which was basically an image of every visible planet at that time. Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune in our own solar system all at once, so that it could be seen. Absolutely stunning image. There's honestly, that would make a really cool space pod, because it was a massive battle to make that image happen within NASA. And that would be so the New Horizons team has said that they would love to make a updated family portrait photo, but that would be the last photos that they would want to attempt, just in case they accidentally blow out and destroy LORI on it there. So with New Horizons studying the sun, what they're more talking about is the heliophysics. So using like the particle detectors on board and other things like that in order to study the solar wind that far out, which I feel is a perfectly reasonable thing to do with New Horizons. As to whether that needs a tremendous amount of funding to pull off or not, I'm not sure, because I'm not working on the team with New Horizons or anything like that, so I can't speak to any like personal understanding of things like that. I do know that the principal investigator of New Horizons, Dr. Alan Stern, he's one of those people that is like, if he sets his mind to do something, he's gonna do everything he can to do it. He's one of those like unstoppable forces in the science world, which is fantastic to have that kind of enthusiasm in a mission like what New Horizons is doing. But ultimately it does is no Buck Rogers really is the rule of things, and you have to justify it to get the money. And honestly, I feel like New Horizons is justified in what it's doing, because it's not going to the same areas that Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 are. So Voyager 1, Voyager 2, still operational with a handful.
Somehow.
Yeah, so far away. New Horizons will not be in contact with us when it's as far away as the Voyagers are today. New Horizons was not designed for that. It doesn't have the ability to put out that much power with its high gain antenna. So at some point by the 2030s, we are probably going to lose New Horizons just literally from the fade, if you will, on its radio signals.
How long? How long before New Horizons surpasses Voyager 1 and 2 is on distance from the Earth?
It never will, because New Horizons is not moving at the same velocity as Voyager 1 and Voyager 2.
Oh, really? I thought
Voyager 1 and
I thought it was moving faster.
So it left Earth faster, but Voyager 1 and Voyager 2 went very close to several of the gas giants, Jupiter and Saturn. Sped them up like you wouldn't believe. New Horizons flew by Jupiter. It wasn't a close flyby though. It wasn't close enough to really do anything other than cut the cruise from Pluto from 13 years to 9.5 years. So it did shave about 4 years off of the cruise time from Earth to Pluto, but it definitely didn't do anything in terms of speeding up that velocity.
If you've played enough Kerbal, you do actually believe.
Yes, we could give it a try. Maybe we could just catch up with it and put a big rocket on it again. But Loopy has a really good point here, which I think is the most important thing, which is that New Horizons was always going to turn to heliophysics at the end of the Kuiper Belt mission. But the current push from NASA is to end the Kuiper Belt mission early while it's still in the Kuiper Belt. To me, that feels like running a marathon and then stopping at mile number 25 and saying, I did it. I'm so good at this. I did it. So I'm really hoping that they still do the Kuiper Belt portion of the mission. But if it does just become a heliophysics only mission as well, that's still super important, super valuable data. And overall, I just want all the missions to do everything for as long as they can until they break. Is that
mile 25 or mile 12?
For New Horizons?
Yeah.
Well, I would say for the Kuiper Belt mission that it's much closer to the end of the marathon than it is at the midpoint. Because they have been the New Horizons team has been hunting for a very long time to try to find another object to perform a flyby of, and it just keeps coming up empty, unfortunately. In 2019, it flew by Arkoth, which was a Kuiper Belt object, the furthest object we have ever had a spacecraft visit in our solar system, but ultimately it's really difficult to find these things that far out and have it be these objects be in specific areas that there's enough propellant on board of New Horizons to actually get it there, and get it there while still able to study it while it's there. So so it is very, very tough to look at that. So yeah, it's kind of a little bittersweet with it because, as Bennett is pointing out here in our chat room, finding nothing is also science, and that's very, very true. If it does end up becoming if it does end up being one of those things where we can't find an object, then actually Loopy, I was just reading Loopy's comment, that's why I froze up there a little bit, and I was agreeing with that. That was something that I was actually getting ready to say with it there, which is that from what I've heard, it might be the financial pressure because Mars sample return is taking up a lot of the budget. By the way, Mars sample return's budget is absolutely exploding right now. You think the James Webb Space Wells Scope Space Telescope went absolutely bonkers on the budget brigade? Let me tell you, you should go look at Mars sample return right now. And they want to stop funding it through planetary science. And specifically, Loopy reminding us that funding New Horizons through the planetary science, which makes sense because if you turn it into a heliophysics mission, it should be in the heliophysics division of NASA, which is different from the planetary science division. So yeah, so that's me. That's my very long-winded answer to that one there. And if any of you in the chat room have a feeling about that, or if any of you watching on demand have a feeling about that, leave us a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and all the other wonderful, delightful things. Hit the bell or something with it there. What about you guys? You got anything with it?
With New Horizons, I have to be honest, I don't really have a very strong connection with the mission. Obviously, first high-res imagery of Pluto, very exciting. Coincidentally, I'm wearing my Pluto t-shirt today. Obviously something that was very exciting, but it's not like I mean, the thing launched when I was like 1 year old, so it's not really something. It's not really a mission I can remember throughout my lifetime. It was throughout my lifetime, but it's not something I can remember very well.
God,
But obviously,
I'm
the
old.
close flyby of Pluto, obviously the close flyby of Pluto and Arakoth were very exciting moments. Yeah, I remember the stream from like New Year's in 2019 or whatever. That was an exciting moment to see the first imagery of that. But yeah, it's not really something I have that much of a close connection to.
I remember
I think it's
watching
been
it launch.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about it launching, and that was when I was graduating high school.
Ugh.
My senior year of high school, Ryan. So, I think my best memory of New Horizons is definitely being in the back of house area at Griffith Observatory when the day after the Pluto flyby, they had the press conference, and a lot of us were gathered around watching the stream of it, and they showed that first image of Pluto and its surface. And I've never heard that many people with that many degrees say that many expletives at something really good as opposed to something really bad happening. So, because it was just so mind blowing, it still is today with it. So, yeah, it was just amazing. So, yeah, Alison Cornish pointing out a very important fact here, which is the New Horizons launched when Pluto was still a full planet. And in fact, you'll notice often that with Dr. Alan Stern, he'll pose in photos doing this. And so I absolutely love it. If you ever want to, we actually do have an interview with Dr. Alan Stern from 2018 where we talked with him about the New Horizons mission, and we go into great detail about it because a lot of people think it's just launch in 2006, flyby in 2015, but actually one of the things we did in that interview is we went all the way back to the beginning in the 1980s when he was a part of something that was a legitimate thing that was actually called the Pluto Underground, which was sort of this rebel group of scientists who wanted to do a Pluto flyby mission. And that goes all the way back to the 1980s. So if you're interested in that, go watch that interview. Maybe we could throw it in our description, something like that. So if people want to get more of a look at it, they can. But that was a really, really fun with that there. So, yeah. So anyways, I really hope New Horizons continues in some capacity because it's a fully operational spacecraft that we have heading out of here in a realm that really doesn't have a spacecraft in it at the moment. So there's my 2 cents in that there. So there. And then Dolly, did you have anything else? I think yeah. I do.
I have a couple of things left in my quiver. One is just a really quick shout out. I have been basking in the tracking shots over this last week, mostly of Falcon Heavy, but really, all the stuff so just a general shout out to all of those rocket photographers out there. I am loving your work. I am so grateful for what you're doing, and you are impressing the heck out of me with your post-production skills.
All right, Dolly. I gotta say, welcome to the club. So there's nothing quite as good as a nice tracking shot with that. And actually, I was gonna say, thank you, Paul Michael Friedman there, commenting on our discussion we just had about New Horizons, which was not 2 cents, that was more like $1. So yeah, you're definitely true with that. So yeah, we gave you the whole enchilada, as it were, with that. And if you don't know what an enchilada is, it's the perfect day to find out. And Nigel Miller is actually asking a really good question, which is, could New Horizons be used to make a large baseline? So Nigel's basically asking, could we use New Horizons to do things like interferometry? So basically combining telescopes together and other things like that. We could. It would definitely be one of the biggest ones we've ever attempted. So we would need some incredible computing power to pull that off. Also, there's a very big problem that I think a lot of people are forgetting about with New Horizons, which is that it's really far away, and they sacrificed a lot of design aspects in order for it to be a relatively cheaper mission. And one of those design aspects is a very fast downlink from its high gain antenna. It does not downlink very, very quickly. In case you wanted to know, the flyby of Pluto in July of 2015, it took almost 2 years for them to download all of that data. Just from a couple of days on approach, a couple of hours going past, and a couple of days after. So 2 years to download that data. The flyby of Arkoth, which was maybe 9, 10, 12 hours maximum in terms of data gathering, it was 18 months to get all of that data back. So this is not high bandwidth that we're working with.
I thought I had bad internet.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought I had it bad stuff too. So that's that's a big factor you have to think of too. And they were talking about the expense of New Horizons being the deep space network. Well, if you're downloading stuff over 18 months, you're using the deep space network a lot for that, and that's not cheap. So yeah, there's so many. I'm just one of these people. I just want to fund everything, but I also understand that you just can't. So
you're just a fund guy.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for that one. Yeah, I'm so sad. I'm probably gonna cry in the after show from it, as you can tell right now. Yeah, and actually Paul Michael Friedman's bringing up a really good point, which goes on to something that I would like to talk about next, which Paul Michael Friedman said the Galileo had its high gain antenna get stuck and the whole mission was done over the low gain antenna. Now that's patience. So, and very, very true. And speaking of things that are stuck, did we all hear about the European Space Agency's JUICE mission?
I did. I know Dolly did. He talked about it.
Yeah.
I assume you did.
Mm-hmm. Dolly, what happened with JUICE?
JUICE got stuck. JUICE has a big old antenna. Gosh, I'm thinking they were saying 18 feet. I think in meters. So, sorry. Am I right about 18 feet? Anyway, sorry. Big antenna becomes 3 times bigger, something like that. Mm-hmm. Or maybe, I don't, really cool thing. There's a picture. Anyway, that antenna was trying to unstick, and there's apparently a little pin that's supposed to release that's interfering, it's catching. And they're going to try a Hail Mary of getting the spacecraft shaking and whatever, and pointing it at the sun and warming it in places and things like that, and see if they can work past the interference and get the thing to unfurl, which hopefully would give us a full suite of the mission requirements. Now, I want to say that the Galileo mission, am I right? Galileo mission had the problem with the main antenna not.
The high gain did not deploy successfully, or easily deployed, but did not deploy enough to actually be usable.
Right, did not deploy usable, and in this case, I have no idea exactly how much that radar might be usable in its like 1/3 size configuration, or maybe it's a lot smaller, and whether it could even be used. I don't know. We'll find that out. But I'm going to say if they can't manage to get it unstuck, I am going to be so interested in all the ways in which they figure out, because the spacecraft's going there. I'm sure it's going to do some other things other than just that radar. So they're going to do it, and I'll be impressed as heck about how they get good data through these problems. I think we learn more from these missions when they go wrong about how to do the next mission better than and unfortunately the scientific loss obviously the money, but in the time, but we get a lot more advancement when we make a mistake than when we are successful at just proving that we did it again the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Advancement versus actual success per mission, cost benefit ratio. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It definitely helps. The advancement, I feel like it always happens anyhow, because we're always trying to get the latest, greatest, and next best thing. With that, as old gamer noob is saying, it's all about the mass. So that's right. You got to keep things really, lightweight in order to make sure that things work, and especially with that. So, and then Allison saying Juice could have learned from Gelscope, Welloscope, and then Loopy also throwing on to that as well, with all of the recent launches like Lucy and Juice having deployment failures. I feel like we should count ourselves lucky that Gelscope, Welloscope was 346 for 346, batting 1000 on that there.
I'm sorry. I believe that average is JPL.
What's up?
I believe that batting average is JPL.
JPL?
JPL.
Are you saying that JPL's never made mistakes?
No.
Okay.
The number of rights far outweighs the wrongs.
Oh, okay. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. Sorry, Dutta. By the way,
Gelscope, Welloscope batting on the same plane as JPL.
Gotcha. So we're all in the same all-star game here, essentially. So yeah, good stuff. And JTTV, of course, reminding us that it was actually 344 individual or single points of failure. What's 2 single points of failure amongst friends? So, yeah, right. So
all you need is one.
Yep, that's it. And Juice, the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer, is showing us that that instrument, the radar, is called RIME, which is Radar for Icy Moons Exploration. The extension of it is about 16 meters, or roughly 52 feet in length. And it is supposed to be able to take information, or basically give us subsurface structure of the moons of Jupiter, specifically Ganymede, down to about 9 kilometers, about 5.5 miles in depth, with about 30 meter or 100-foot resolution in that there, which is just astounding to think about that. And it will be doing that around the same time that Europa Clipper will also be in the Jovian system as well. So that's going to be really cool, having 2 spacecraft operating relatively close to each other at the same time. So maybe we'll see some co-observations. And they really, the European Space Agency really is putting in a huge effort right now in order to fix this, and I'm happy to see that. So they're doing pretty good on that front. So,
to the best of my knowledge, the radar antenna is the I don't know if it's the only or the primary source of being able to see under the ice of the icy moons, and considering this is the Jupiter Icy Moons mission, I would hazard a guess that having the Icy Moons radar not working properly would be significant to the success of the mission. Or is there other components of the satellite that are able to do the job in its place?
They're definitely going to want to be doing surface studies with it, because I know Juice is going to. I know Europa Clipper and Juice are going to both be taking imagery to help each other out, from what I understand, with them working together at the same time in the Jovian system. So we'll have to see what happens with that. So because after all, it's kind of hard to do that if you're not working correctly. So but the nice thing, they have plenty of time to fix it, because they are literally because of gravitational assists and other things like that, in order to get JUICE to Jupiter, and JUICE weighs a tremendous amount. It's one of the heaviest interplanetary probes that we have ever sent out. It is 6 tons, so just a little over 6,000 kilograms. That's heavy to do that. It's got a lot of gravitational assist. It's I don't want to say puttering around the inner solar system a lot, but boy, it's going everywhere and seeing its mom at the same time, I guess.
Are we using up our yearly allotment of how much we're able to retard Jupiter's orbit by all of these gravity assists with that much WAS?
Well, we're not using Jupiter's. We're not using the momentum there of Jupiter to do that. We're using Earth and Venus.
You had me on flybys, and you're right. This one is going there, and it's going to become part of the Jupiter system.
Yes,
and so it'll add its tiny amount of momentum to that, and probably that's probably insignificant.
Yeah, and then at the end of the mission, they're going to deorbit JUICE, so it will add its rather small mass in comparison to Ganymede. So just as Galileo, we added a little bit of we added all of Galileo to Jupiter and all of Cassini to Saturn. So it's kind of ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Now to deorbit you into the atmosphere, I guess. So
smacking into Ganymede is probably the biggest impact that this will have environmentally.
Yeah, and I do know that JUICE was built to the specifications that would allow basically the highest of cleanliness. Also, it's going to be in space for well over a decade before it does its impact in the Ganymede surface. So I think that will take care of it too. Also, it'll be flying through Jupiter's radiation belts a few times, so that will definitely cook anything that would be alive on it. And also technically cook the probe too. So with that. So yeah. So Jason, actually really good question here that I think this will be sort of our last one that we'll answer today before we officially go into our wrap up for this. Which is that why didn't they plan to deorbit JUICE into Jupiter? And that is because JUICE is actually going to be orbiting Ganymede. So at the end of its mission, JUICE will be in a polar orbit around Ganymede and spend about a year there and then deorbit. So to get to Jupiter, they'd have to leave orbit around Ganymede and then head back or head closer into Jupiter, basically bleed off that energy and head in. So that would be it would require a lot of energy in order to release that. So yeah, lots of stuff this week. Also Ingenuity, can I get a quick shout out to Ingenuity having done its 51st flight on the surface of Mars. So somebody was saying that that maybe the JUICE team should go talk to the Ingenuity team, and that's not very nice. So I just wanted to wag my finger at the chat room for that one there. It's not very nice. All right. So in order to wrap this up, of course, we want to thank all of you, the citizens of tomorrow. You're the ones who helped make this show possible. And of course, we're going to start off with our tomorrow. And boy, am I going to have to use an itty bitty screen in order to read this correctly. So, Dada, let's go for it. It's either now or never. It is our tomorrow Model 33 Plaid Pro Plus member NeuroStream. Thank you so much for contributing what you do to help make these shows possible. We appreciate it every single little bit. We also have our Escape Velocity members. These folks give at a level where they actually have access to a specific and special Discord channel where they can see our scripts that we have written. They can see things like, are you going to be at the show today? Yes, I will be. Oh, I'm now at Station 204. Hey, guys, here's the latest dad joke that I have. Here's some photos of my dogs. All the things that you probably have wanted to see very clearly have been dying and burning at your heart to see. That's the Escape Velocity level. Of course, our Discord is free, by the way. Go ahead and grab that link in the description and join us on Discord. But if you want to get into the Escape Velocity channel, you got to get at the Escape Velocity level. We also have our Orbital members as well. These folks contribute enough that they have gotten far beyond Ship 24 and Booster 7 in their capabilities of what those were going to do to begin with. And then we, after our orbital members, we have our suborbital members as well. These folks, you're contributing. Your contributions are so helpful in making this show possible. Even for shows like this, where we are not all present, where only Dutta is at Station 204. This is still unbelievably vital contributions, and we just appreciate everything. And then, of course, we have our Tomorrow ground support members. Every little bit helps us out here at Tomorrow. So if you feel like contributing to the shows of tomorrow, you can head on over to youtube.com/TMRO/join, and you can be a part of that. By the way, all of our Tomorrow members, including those who don't get their name in the show, the system support, which is literally just 99 cents a month. That's all it is. It's literally a quarter of a cup of coffee from your favorite coffee joint to join us. Anybody who's a member, even if you're joining as a member right now, at least if you're live, you are going to get access to our members only stream, which we start immediately at the end of our shows. So that about wraps us up for today, if you ask me. Yeah, you measuring that there real quick with that, Dolly. I can't tell really what you're doing there, but it's looking like you're putting in a full effort to it, which is good. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and wrap up our live show and head on over to our members only stream. So thank you all so much for joining us today on Tomorrow for yesterday's news. Yeah, that sounded pretty good to wrap it up with there. So I think we'll leave it right there. We'll see everybody. Yeah. Have a good one.
I started waving. I was panicking that you weren't actually wrapping it up then, so I would have to keep my hand waving.
Yeah, sorry.
There you go.
What do we call it? Minnesotan goodbye, where it takes a while?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Kind of.
Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. See you in the members stream.
Yeah. So